रेडियो खांची 90.4 FM हम सबका रेडियो। माई सेल्फ डॉक्टर नीलू सिंह, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स, डोरंडा कॉलेज, रांची यूनिवर्सिटी, रांची। Today I will be discussing the law of variable proportions, also named as short-run production function or law of returns to a factor. This topic is part of the syllabus of paper 403 Managerial Economics of PG semester 4 and UG semester 3. Besides, it is also taught in microeconomics subject in MBA, BBA, MCOM, BCom, etc. My lecture will cover the explanation of the law, its diagrammatic presentation, and the applicability of this law. I have uploaded few slides for better appreciation of the subject matter. Law of variable proportions occupies an important place in economic theory. It refers to the behavior of output as equal quantities of variable factor is applied on the fixed factor, keeping all other factors constant. In other words, it refers to the input-output relation when production is increased by varying the quantity of one input. Now, before proceeding further, I would like to briefly introduce the concept of production function. Since this law is known as short-run production function, we all should know what production function is. Production function is the functional relationship between physical inputs and physical output. It has nothing to do with the prices of input or output. Inputs are explanatory variable or independent variable, and output is dependent variable. Mathematically, we can show production as a function of inputs, and these inputs are land, labor, capital, technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, depending upon the nature of variability of these factors with respect to time, these inputs can be broadly classified as fixed factor and variable factor in the short run. Short run means there is insufficient time to change the quantity of these inputs, like the amount of capital or technology or skilled manpower cannot be changed in a short notice. So these factors become fixed factor in the short run. On the other hand, there are some factors like raw materials, unskilled manpower, which can be changed even in a short notice of time. So these are variable factors in the short run. Thus, in short run, production can be increased by varying the quantity of variable factor on the fixed factor. Since the ratio of variable to the fixed factor keep changing with every increase in the variable factor, this law is known as the law of variable proportions or the law of returns to a factor. Now, different economists have defined this law in their own ways. Marshall discussed the law of diminishing returns in relation to agriculture. He defines the law as follows: an increase in the capital and labor applied in the cultivation of land causes in general a less than proportionate increase in the amount of product raised unless it happens to coincide with an improvement in the arts of agriculture. According to Stigler, as equal increments of one input are added, the inputs of other productive services being held constant, beyond a certain point, the resulting increments of produce will decrease. That is, the marginal product will diminish. In the words of Benham, as the proportion of one factor in a combination of factors is increased, after a point, first the marginal and then the average product of that factor will diminish. Samuelson defines the law as an increase in some inputs relative to other fixed inputs will, in a given state of technology, cause output to increase, but after a point the extra output resulting from the same addition of extra inputs will become less. So from all these definitions, it can be interpreted that in the short run, an equal increments of variable factor applied on the fixed factor eventually leads to a decline in average and marginal products. The law is based on certain assumptions like short run, constant state of technology, and homogeneous factors. The law is explained with the help of table and graph. Now as we can see from the table, the number of workers, that is the variable input factor, is increased on the fixed amount of land. Now with every increase in the amount of variable factor, the total product as well as the average product and the marginal product changes. Up to the employment of 4 laborers, the total product increases with an increasing rate. See how? Total production means the total produce obtained by all the laborers together. Suppose if you are showing 1 labor, then his contribution is 10 kg. 2 laborers together contribute 24 kg. 3 laborers together contribute 39 kg. So total product means total produced obtained by all the laborers. Average product means total production divided by the number of workers. It is also called per unit production. And marginal production means addition to total product due to 1 extra labor. This addition can be positive or negative or 0. So in this case, in this table, we are seeing that up to the addition of 4 labor, total production is increasing at an increasing rate. The marginal production is increasing. That means each additional labor is contributing more compared to the previous labor. Beyond 4th labor, the further employment leads to a decline in the marginal production. Total is still increasing up to the employment of 8th labor, but the rate of increase has diminished. The marginal production is declining and also average production is declining. Beyond the employment of 8th labor, what happens? The total production starts declining. That means the addition to total or the marginal product is negative. So in this way we are getting 3 stages of production. The first stage is of increasing returns. The second stage is of diminishing returns. And the third stage is of negative returns. Now these 3 stages are shown in the form of diagram. In this diagram we can see that up to the employment of OX2 amount of labor, total production is increasing, and from X2 to X3 employment of labor, total is still increasing, and beyond that point total production is declining. From this total production curve we can derive the average production and the marginal production curve. Now average production is increasing in the first stage up to point OX2. Marginal is also increasing, but the marginal product cuts the average product at its maximum. And this is the relation between the average product and marginal product. Marginal product always cuts the average product at its maximum. So this stage up to point X2 amount of employment is called stage 1, that is the stage of increasing returns. Beyond X2 up to X3, AP and MP both are declining. This stage is of diminishing returns. We can see here stage 2, and beyond X3 employment the marginal product becomes negative. This also shows that the employment of labor beyond X3 is worthless. These laborers beyond X3 are contributing nothing to the production. Their contribution to total production is either zero or negative. So these are the three phases of law of variable proportions. This point is called the point of inflection, and corresponding to the point of inflection, the marginal product will be maximum. This point is also the point of maximum marginal returns. Here the curvature is being changed. Curvature means initially the graph is increasing at an increasing rate, total production curve, and then total production is still increasing, but it is increasing at a diminishing rate. So the rates are differing. Increasing rate initially and then diminishing rate. And at this point the marginal product is maximum. So these are the three phases of the law of variable proportions. Now either we can show the diagram in the earlier way or we can show in the same diagram. Now the question arises as to why this law operates. For the increasing returns to a factor, the reasons responsible are better utilization of the fixed factor, increased efficiency of variable factor, and indivisibility of the fixed factor. Due to indivisibility of the fixed factor, when more of the variable factor are applied initially on the fixed factor, the production increases due to the increased efficiency and optimal utilization. But beyond the optimum capacity, diminishing returns to a factor applies, and this is due to optimum combination of factors achieved, and since two factors cannot be perfect substitute of each other, like labor cannot be substituted for the land, or the other factors can't be substitute of each other. So due to imperfect substitute, the diminishing returns to a factor applies after a given point. And the third stage, that is negative returns to a factor, applies due to limitations of the fixed factor, poor coordination between variable and fixed factor due to abundance of variable factor on the fixed factor, and decrease in the efficiency of variable factor. Now we will see the importance of this law. This law is helpful in understanding clearly the process of production. It explains the input-output relations. We can find out by how much the total product will increase as a result of an increase in inputs. The law tells us that the tendency of diminishing returns is found in all sectors of the economy, which may be agriculture or industry. The law also tells us that the elasticity of substitution of the variable factor for the fixed factor is not infinite. And from this law, it may be understood that we can suspend the operation of diminishing returns by continually improving the technique of production through the progress in science and technology. This law is also the basis of a number of doctrines in economics. It has universal applicability in any branch of production. Like we all know that the Malthusian theory of population is based on this law. The Ricardian theory of rent is also based on the law of diminishing returns. The theory of distribution is based on the law of diminishing marginal productivity. And the Ragnar-Knox theory of unlimited supply of labor is also based on the law of diminishing returns. We all know that in the agriculture sector in underdeveloped countries, a majority of laborers are employed whose contribution to total production is either negative or zero. So if these laborers are withdrawn from the agriculture sector and employed in the industrial sector or other sectors of the economy, then total production can be raised. So this law is very useful for all the branches of economics. Now, what are the types of questions that can be asked from this topic? The question can be, explain the law of variable proportions. What are the reasons for operating of this law? The same question can be asked in other form. Elucidate the law of variable proportions with diagram. Which is the appropriate stage for a rational producer to produce? So this is all about this law. In the next lecture, I'll be discussing about the long run production function. Thank you.